And hello again, boys and girls. Welcome back to the channel. This is your host, Marley Startled. And this is going to be a self-contained video, a short one. Just giving you a how-to on how to convoy raid. I've been looking at Steam discussions. I think there's a couple of new players. They're not really too sure how to infiltrate destroyers and knock out convoys. Now, bear in mind this is a 1939 playthrough, and so it is going to be a bit easier to infiltrate convoys, and the destroyers won't be as dangerous, but I'll give you the general principles on how to do it. So the first thing we need to actually do is find a convoy. Now, the best or most effective way is either getting radio transmissions from U-boats or from using the hydrophone. Now, the hydrophone only really works underwater. So the first thing you should do is get underneath the water and then assign one of your radio operators, you'll probably have one at the game start, to listen onto the hydrophone. This will then hopefully spot any propellers. Now you can see here that this has spotted one vessel, and then of course we can use our hydrophone to see where the enemy vessel is going. Now, because this is not a convoy, I'm not going to bother to chase this, but the basic rule is you find a direction it is going and then you try and intercept. So I know it's heading northwards, so what I would do is try and move to intercept. I would then surface the vessel and try and get at a right angle. The things you don't want to do is either directly head on, because then you won't have a good angle for your torpedoes, or move up directly behind because you'll be chasing. But that is generally how you do a proper sort of look around. You can see our hydrophone gives us massive range, allowing us to detect vessels. Now, things you have to pay attention to is make sure you don't use up all your oxygen, and make sure you turn on the diesel compressors when you're doing this, because you do not want to end up accidentally running out of oxygen because of a bad because you forgot to surface and you went too fast on the speed. So we can also get radio transmissions, which will hopefully be a good indicator of different information. So you can see here that they've found one vessel there. All this generally luck. You can see we have our command over here, who's also on the patrol, which may allow us to spot enemy convoys if they are nearby. But as a rule, the early on period will be you moving around the patrol area, occasionally stopping at different points, going down to periscope depth, and then using the hydrophone. Okay, boys, so now using this process of going down to periscope depth or lower and using the hydrophone, we have now spotted our convoy. So propeller noise, tiny group 2 to 4. Now what we can do is then predict where the enemy vessels are going. So we take a look, we see they're coming towards us. Now the first mistake people make is they move as a beeline either directly towards or effectively towards the convoy. Now, if the convoy is moving directly towards you, if you go directly towards it, you're going to come straight into the enemy destroyer's path. You're going to where the sonar is most powerful from the front and from the front angles. And so the mistake there is, of course, you're not going to get very good beads on your torpedoes because the vessels are coming straight for you, and it's a high likelihood you're going to get spotted as well. Equally, if you try and chase from behind, you're also going to struggle because, again, you're going to be trying to outrun while underwater. Equally, you do not want to be underwater when you're moving to intercept. So for now, I can see it's heading towards me. So what I'd normally do is potentially just wait where I am, surface, and let them continue to advance my way. Now, just to simulate what I would do if it was not moving my way, I'm now going to surface the vessel. Now, the aim you want to achieve is sort of to locate where the enemy vessels are going and to end up at a right angle. Now, as soon as we surface the vessel, we're no longer going to get our hydrophone contacts. It's going to be very difficult for us to keep a bead. So it's important that you sort of guesstimate, which you'll learn from experience or actually by predicting properly where the enemy vessels are going and react accordingly. So in this case, I know they're coming towards me, so I'm going to try and move in at a right angle to them. And now I'm going to stop. And once again, I'm going to go down to a deep depth and see where they're coming from. So again, it's a slow convoy. I'm in a good spot, and now I'm going to move to intercept. So I'm going to start moving the vessel up. I'm going to surface it, and I'm going to move further up at max speed. I may even use to move to flanking speed if I don't believe I'm going fast enough for this role. And here we spot the funnel smoke. So we're above water. I'm going to apply the diesel compressor to make sure our oxygen's back up. And here's when you've got to decide. So now you've got to that infiltration speed or that infiltration range, you can now sort of assess what you want to do. So what I generally do is I try and move as close as I can to spot the first vessels before I dive. So in this case, I'll move further up and I'll wait until I can spot enemy vessels. Of course, if you can, try and spot them during the day, or if you can't spot them during the day, then of course, or bad weather, you can potentially wait and stalk the convoys until you've got better weather, or if you're sort of desperate because weather's bad, then of course you can move in quietly if the weather's bad. So you can see here the weather's good, so what I would potentially do is I would not attack now and just stalk the vessels moving further north until it ends up being nighttime. But in this case, we won't be doing that, so I can demonstrate to you the way to infiltrate. But unfortunately, they're all convoys, so I can't really show you how to infiltrate a convoy defended by destroyers. So you can see here we're getting spotted now. I would normally not. I'd hit periscope depth now. I probably would have hit it earlier, and then of course I would have turned off all the loud noises like gyro compass and electric planes. I would of course stop as well, because I know they're coming towards me, and I would now wait. So we haven't been spotted, we're now below the water. We're going to go silent running with blue light as well. We're going to make sure the dive planes are on manual and the gyro compass is off because these produce noise. So if it was a destroyer, we would of course want to reduce our noise as much as possible, and we do our infiltration. So from here, we'd of course be getting our targets and so on and so forth, and we'd attack. But that's just how you sort of get into the correct trajectory of a convoy. Now, because this is not a defended convoy, I'm not going to bother trying to sink any of these, so I'm just going to turn around and head back the way I came. Okay, so here's an example of a potential convoy. So we can see using our hydrophone, we've just spotted them on the periphery, so we're going to spot and see which direction they're going. So we know they're going this way, so we know we need to go and intercept. So we're going to service the boat and go to flanking speed to try and aim to intercept those vessels. Now this took me a very long time to set up because I came across bugged convoys along the coast or undefended convoys. So it's a bit of a nightmare to do. But the aim is to try and move so you are horizontally to the target. And of course along the way, just keep on going at 50 speed, keep on going down to periscope depth to try and locate where the enemy vessels are. So you can see here, the enemy vessels are getting closer, so we're in a pretty good spot. So you can raise up back to service level and move once more to try and intercept. So now we've hit that sort of detectability, and now we know where the enemy vessels are coming from. So I recommend we send stop because we don't really know the sort of a lay of the land. So from here, we're going to turn off gyro compass. I'm going to turn our dive planes to manual and turn this guy, because he would always turn on his bloody perform maintenance into something else where he doesn't do that as soon as we hit periscope depth. You can see there's an enemy warship here, so immediately we're going to hit periscope depth. I'm going to start going forward 1 speed. So you want to try and get in between these 2 warships that we've spotted. Now, because they're coming from the front, we've got to be very careful because because their sonar is extremely good at that angle. So I'm going to turn on blue light for silent running, and we're going to turn these guys on to improve depth keeping. See, at this range, it's too dangerous to get any closer. So we're going to wait until they pass. And then we're going to increase our speed once more. Once we're past that front angle. So now we've broken through the enemy's destroyer to our rear and the enemy destroyer to our front, because we're both out of the sonar range. From there we can now start spotting the ships and seeing which ones we want to hit. So the general rule is you do not want to be greedy during your U-boat, during your convoy raid. You want to target one or two and then fire and get out of there quick. If you get greedy and try and stay and sink everything, you're just going to die. So now they're in this position and we've got to that interception range, we can now sort of slowly move forward. And then we're in that good range, and now we can stop. There's no need to go any further. It's 2.9 kilometers. By the time it gets within our range, it'll be 2.5, perfect range, because we got into that good interception angle. You can see we're at 70%, so we can just continue waiting. Of course, you can manually do it if you think that's easier. And then, of course, we'll target the one behind it. Oh, it's Swiss, so we can't target that one. We'll target this one instead. And with that, we'll now begin firing. So once again, move over here. Prepare to fire the torpedoes. Change the arc as you see fit, but then you're going to have your mad minute. So from here, once you've loaded, you fire. Close, find the next target. And you see, now we're getting greedy. We haven't got enough of a firing range to begin opening firing, and the torpedoes are about to hit. So instead of waiting, or instead of like trying to be greedy and get that second volley, what we're going to do now is we're going to immediately take evasive maneuvers, because as soon as those torpedoes hit, all hell is going to break loose. So immediately we're going to go down to as low as possible, potentially checking the depth. So if we go over to, say, this guy, get this guy to leave, go over here and check what's our depth under keel, 125 meters. So we're going to hit down to that 125 meters, and we're going to start moving out of the kill zone. Because those torpedoes are going to hit any second now. And then all hell is going to break loose. So we're going to see how low we can get and move as deep down and away from our position as possible. Potentially we should have done this earlier, but that's the nature of the beast. What I'm going to do is stop the engines, because we will be detected at the current engines and noise. So at this stage, the aim here is to fire your torpedoes and get as far away from your firing point as possible without giving away your position. Now, this may be difficult to do depending on how close you are to the convoys and, of course, how close the warships are. But if you can't do that, then you need to take the secondary options. So your secondary options are to get as low as possible, as deep as possible, hit that sea floor, or to effectively stop engines and play dead. So what we're trying to do now is crash dive as low as we can to that sort of dangerous level, so we're resting on the sea floor. Now from here, it's the waiting game. So you have two options here. Now if you think a destroyer has got a proper bead on you and it's about to do a depth charge run, and of course you get off that sea floor and you run and try and do a hard right angle and as soon as the depth charges hit, the sonar will temporarily stop, and this will allow you that invisibility to sort of run away and reassign your positions. Now here we're going for the sea floor method, which should hopefully reduce our sonar detectability. You can see it's slowly going up, but because of our seabed proximity, it's still going to be pretty low, and it's going to mean it's going to be very difficult for the convoys to get us. In a perfect world, you'd be able to get out or get further away from your original firing point before this happens. Alas, it's not a perfect world, but it's enough to hopefully reduce the ability for the enemy ships to get a proper bead on you, and that's all you're trying to do. You're trying to reduce your detectability. Now, another method is, of course, hiding near the sinking ship, but generally speaking, you don't want to be too far into the convoy to not be able to get out, but also not too far out of the convoy not to be able to hit anything. And so you've got to make that choice between how close you can get. So you see the ship propellers are directly above us, but they're not quite sure where we are. And they haven't dropped any depth charges, because we're lying down and we're keeping a low profile. So because the enemy could not spot us because we rested on that sea floor, and we didn't make any noise or made as little noise as possible, the enemy warships are now going to move away. So they went to our previously known position, they didn't get any sonar read because of our proximity to the sea floor, and now they're going to move away. So from there, we can just let them pass and withdraw. Now, if they had started dropping depth charges, we could have done two things. The first option would be to take evasive maneuvers, which means a hard, full speed emergency speed, followed by a potentially a hard right or hard left, just trying to get away from the front or the rear of the enemy destroyer. And then that way, of course, once the jet charges hit, hopefully they don't hit us, and we have that time to move away from our previously known position. Fortunately, because it's 1939 and because we're in a very fortunate spot in terms of patrol, the enemy could not spot us, and so now they're going to move away from us. So from here we can wait or hit that periscope depth and then begin to gradually get the hell out of Dodge. You can also send our messages and move on. So that is really effectively how you sort of do your convoy interceptions. It's constantly a mix between what makes this game great is the balance between how deep you want to get, and of course how much you're willing to risk to avoid the enemy destroyers. Now, as you've noticed, this is how you sneak into destroyers, trying to stay away from their front and direct angles, while also trying to get in the gaps between the destroyer escorts, while also trying to hit and take evasive maneuvers before you are spotted or before the enemy moves to react against you. You see, that was sort of a perfect thing, but this was heavily edited because there's many convoys where there was no destroyers or convoys that were bugged. And so bear in mind that it will vary depending on your period, or your date in terms of enemy sonar technology, how easy it is to spot you, as well as things such as weather. So in poor weather, you have to rely on your hydrophones more, but it means sonar will be less effective. But in better weather, say at night time with a full moon, you'll be able to spot the enemy convoys early on with your binoculars, and then you can take evasive maneuvers. But it's really about getting that initial interception right, followed by getting that initial information correct about where the enemy destroyers are located, then followed by that stealthy approach forward. Once you've achieved that, it's then about diving, taking evasive maneuvers, and of course playing dead, trying to reduce your sonar signal, reduce that noise signal to make it as difficult as possible for the destroyers to get you. If you do it right, then of course the destroyers won't be able to spot you, and you'll be able to slink away, or they just won't chase after you. And if you do it wrong, you'll have to take evasive maneuvers. Now, gentlemen, I'll leave you to it. This will just be a standalone video. I'm going to have to do some heavy editing on it because I've had to do so many reruns to get the actual convoy I was looking for. And from there, this will go up onto YouTube. But if you have any questions or if you're new to the game, don't hesitate to ask. You can see this, I was playing this on medium difficulty with medium crew management and of course medium targeting. You may have to target manually, but really convoy raiding isn't too difficult even if you're targeting manually. It's the difficult part is the approach and the stealthy approach. But that's all, boys and girls. Thank you for watching. I need to go to bed because I've got work in the morning. See you all later. Adieu.